This is the Stubborn German Podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie coming to you from the always entertaining Stubborn German Brewing Company here in also always entertaining Waterloo, Illinois. And I'm joined, as always, by the proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company, Mr. Chris Ron.
How are you, Kevin?
I'm great.
Good.
It sounds like you've toned it down just a touch from our last episode. That's good. And our esteemed producer, Mr. Jared Chasson.
Good evening, gentlemen.
And tonight we actually have a very special guest, our good friend and everybody's good friend,
Yes.
JV himself, Mr. Jeff Vogt.
Waka, waka, waka.
Right on.
Oh, gosh.
Welcome.
Yes, for sure. Well, before we get into the Jeff Vogt experience, which is going to happen,
It's going to happen.
already started, we have a little traditional game here that we play on this podcast that is known as the German Word of the Day, in which Chris, who never plays fairly along, throws out a German word, and it's our job to guess it, and then the answer is revealed at the end of the show. So it's a good way to con people into listening to the whole thing.
Yep.
So, Chris, did you prepare a German word of the day?
In fact, I did. The German word of the day for today is Kartoffelsalat.
Kartoffelsalat?
Kartoffelsalat.
That's a long one.
The only German words I know growing up in an all-German family is Ich kleine Hose schisse de Beelzebub.
And that is not the German word of the day.
Not on this episode, but it will be.
It's going to be. Don't tell anyone what that is. Just me later.
We're gonna
I'm
use
using that next time.
Do not play that recording into the Google thing.
No, do not.
Wow, that's outstanding. Well, do you want to?
I
Because
mean, we were polite on this show, so
yeah, we're generous
we let
hosts.
the guests go first.
Polite. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So-
I have no flipping idea.
All right.
You don't want to take a random guess?
Kartoffelsalat?
Kartoffelsalat.
Salad.
Yep.
No.
Could be anything.
No.
He says it means no.
Okay. He says it means no. Mr. Chasson, you got a guess?
I'm going to say garden salad.
Garden
salad is fairly literal with the sound.
It's going to
but-
have nothing to do with the
Oh,
salad.
I know.
Well,
Be too easy.
yeah, you can lock that one in because garden, I think, is garden, basically.
Gosh darn it.
Garten.
Like kindergarten.
Yeah, you know, like
What's the German word for garden?
Wouldn't that be garten salad?
50 years ago, I could have probably told you that when my grandparents were alive and they talked to you in
Yeah?
German
Oh,
so
yeah.
that you wouldn't know what they were talking about, but you figured out what they were talking about
Eventually-
because they were talking about in German.
Yeah, you could have phoned a friend. All right. What is it again? Kartoffelsalat to some degree?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
You got it.
I think it's very obvious to me. It's marching band.
Marching band.
Marching band. Okay.
This game is all nonsense. You realize that by now.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
right.
I have your answers tabulated, and we'll get to them at the end of the episode.
Okay, so
Now it's JV time.
yes, for our listeners,
Kleine Hose schisse de Beelzebub.
I think that's what he said the first time.
that's my new ringtone. Wait a minute, I got to find out what it means first.
Yeah, right.
Es gehst du heim.
For those of our listeners who are in other parts of the world who have not had the pleasure of meeting Mr. JV himself, a quick biography. You've been a local staple here for many years as a restaurant and bar proprietor yourself, pillar in the community, advisor to many on all kinds of different topics, and just a generally well-appreciated all-around good guy. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, I think.
It took me, 3.5 seconds to write that, so I appreciate that. And you've just gone through a pretty gigantic milestone in your life.
As of 4:15 this afternoon,
Nice.
we are no longer owners of 117 North Main
Wow.
properties and
Yeah.
whatever else they just bought.
Good for you.
Right,
Congratulations. That's awesome.
So it is awesome. It's triumphant. It's a little
Right.
bittersweet at the same time.
Absolutely.
And what we're talking
We're
about...
starting to hate that word bittersweet.
I
We've
bet.
heard it so much
I
the
bet.
last 3 weeks.
I bet.
Right.
But understandably, there's just last night I went to the Rotary, met there. That's a whole other story. And these younger guys are there, and We missed you already. We sat outside our cars Friday night on Main Street wanting to know where the hell we were going to go have a beer.
Yeah, right.
Because
See?
that's where they went.
That's where you go. Yeah. Yep.
So for many years, your establishment, JV's, was a place to go to eat and drink and hang out and have a good time. I've done it many, many times myself, as have both Chris and Jared. But I'm a guy who's not from here, so we're gonna hit a little bit of that story.
But your wife was.
Oh yeah, and she'd been
So
there.
you are a preferred outsider.
Ooh, is that what the term is?
Preferred.
That's the
Outsider.
term.
I like the preferred part.
Preferred outsider.
You married from home.
I did. Who are you from home? That was one of the original candidates for the name of this podcast.
Yeah, that's
The-
right.
The Who Are You From Home
Who Are You From
podcast.
Home?
Yeah. So how did you end up getting into the bar and restaurant business to start with?
Oh, my. I started attending bar when I was 19 at the Beehive for Carl and Carol Noby. My brother's
Do you
Mark,
know the Beehive, Kevin?
That was a bowling alley. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure Kevin was aware.
My brothers Mark and Paul actually worked in the kitchen,
Okay.
and I was a bartender. And I don't know, Don Gum, who has the RC distributorship here,
Yep.
he was a bartender. Steve Young was the
Wow.
other bartender, and I don't. One thing worked to the other, and then I went to work. I ran for alderman,
Yeah.
and I got elected at 19
Really?
for alderman. And at that time, it was a 2-year term. They still should be 2-year terms. I don't know when it changed. Somewhere around 25 years ago, they went to 4-year terms. 2-year terms are better. If you had somebody you didn't like, you could get rid of them.
For sure.
Sure.
Now you got them for 4 years.
You're stuck. Yeah.
But you could always re-elect if they did good.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, and it also gave a person a chance, if they didn't like what they were doing, to get out.
Get back out. Yeah.
Right.
And they could save face instead of resigning.
Sure.
That's an interesting concept because you don't think of politicians as saying, I want out of this. But yeah, that's the opportunity.
There was at that time, 77, there was another guy who had a business in town. I didn't have a business then, I was 19, but this guy had been in business, and they supplied a lot of parts for the city of Waterloo, and he voted against a contract that the city employees liked.
Ah.
His business went down 50%.
Oh.
They went to the spot down the street.
See what
Yeah.
happens?
Yeah. And he didn't run the second time.
Yeah. Get me out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I understand. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
And then I went to work up in Columbia. I went to college for about 2-3 years. Thought I'd be a music major. Still might.
That's cool.
It's never,
Never
too
know.
late.
Why not? That's what I say.
mean, that's finish that degree.
That's awesome.
I went to work at there used to be a Knights of Columbus Hall in Columbia that had a 4-lane bowling alley. I was filed to run. Well, I did run for county treasurer at 20 years old.
Man.
Wow.
Got beat by about 290 votes by Merle Prongy.
Yeah.
Merle is a great guy. We're still friends to this day. Back then, Republican, Democrat didn't mean a whole lot.
Sure.
You voted for the person.
Sure. Sure.
And Merle was a disabled Vietnam veteran. Had his leg blown off after, I think, his third
Wow.
tour over there.
Wow,
He
yeah.
stepped on a
Jeez.
landmine. Anyway, Merle beat me. Didn't know what I was going to do next. Went to work for Wayne Mesderich. Drove a oil truck for Standard Oil to all the farmers.
Nice.
And it was great experience.
Sure.
Got to do a lot of things.
Meet a lot of farmers.
Well, just to this day, I mean, there's you know the same people. They came in,
Yeah.
and then I went to work at the bowling alley in Columbia. Knights of Columbus. Guy by the name of Don Squires was the manager. Another interesting character, World War II veteran. One day he would hate you, the next day you were his best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about working for him was how he would work liquor distributors. He would go to the Knights of Columbus board, and he knew the week before or 2 weeks before that how many cases of 10 High was the big
Yeah.
seller back then.
Sure.
How many cases that he needed to get through the year.
The year.
The whole year?
The year.
Wow.
Wow.
And at that time, the distributor for 10 High was Jewel Fisher. And he would said and I think about it, I can think of the salesman's name because he was my salesman when I took over down there, and who stopped in not too long ago before I bought.
Really?
Sell it out. Do you remember Denny? Denny was his first name, and his father-in-law owned Jewel Fishers,
Wow.
which is a whole nother story because. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
And he would say to Denny, I need 400 cases of 10 High.
Holy cow.
What's your best price?
Wow.
Buy it in bulk.
And they would deliver it, and the Knights of Columbus would cut him a check 20 days later because it's a 30-day credit. And he had to carry it down into this basement. But anyway, Don taught you the basics of running a bar.
Gotcha.
When you work for Carl and Carol, you just tended bar. Where Don was the more into this is why I do this is why I do that.
That's
Gotcha.
And
Great
he,
experience.
and he had ran a bar previous up in East Carondelet.
Okay.
So that da-da-da-da.
He showed you the ropes, yeah.
I don't know about the ropes. It was just it was fun. You would stay there.
Gotcha.
When he was in a good mood, you were there till 5 o'clock in the morning. When he was in a bad mood, everybody was done. You really had to know Don to appreciate. He told one guy one night to shut the hell up. I had Germans shooting at me, and you ain't going to tell me what to do. And he took a 7-cell flashlight out, and he hit the guy across the head, and the flashlights went that way, and he laid down. We called the ambulance, and then the guy went away, and that was it. I mean, that's a true story.
Wow.
Perspective.
And how did I get into down? I had no ever intention of going into the bar business. I was working for the putt-offs, tending the bar there. I mean, I had quit up there. Actually, they had sold the building. The Knights of Columbus sold the building. Somebody else had opened it up as a bar guy. I don't remember his name now. And it kind of ran footloose and fancy free, and I had quit and putt-offs down the street at 117 North Main looking for a bartender. I said, well, hell, I knew John I was on the fire department with John.
Yeah.
Started attending bar on Friday nights. That morphed into Saturday nights. Sundays I would open up. John would go golf. That was Sunday then from open to close because John was supposed to lock up, and he'd call me from Chester. And he'd say, hey, Jeffy, we're going to be running late. I said, okay. And Monday night was fire drill, and you ended up there till 1 o'clock in the morning anyway because all your wives thought fire drill went to midnight anyhow.
Yeah. So, and you're still early, mid-20s at this point?
Oh, yeah. And, I bought the bar when I was 27.
Wow.
And I don't know. That's just...
That's
cool. I went in one Saturday, and John's dad, who technically owned the bar, hey, Don Hannon. Hey, Don.
That's great.
I can tell you 100 stories about that guy.
Next podcast.
And he had it for sale, and there was 2 ladies who were going to buy it. And Lanny says to me, come back or I want to talk to you. I said, okay. I thought it was going to be about the schedules. I'm going to sell you the bar. I said, I'm not interested in buying the bar.
Wow.
He said, no, you go home and talk to your dad. My dad? Yeah, your dad will tell you. So I went down. Dad was remodeling Mom and Dad's house, block from there. And his pop, Lanny wants to sell me the bar. I can still see him and his buddy Rail Fisher. They were hanging new kitchen cabinets. And Dad says, well, let's go up and talk to him. My dad was chief police here for about 20 years. He said, well, if you're going to buy a bar, you either buy that one or what is now a Fourth and More.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, a guy by the name of Ken Dean, he said, those are the 2 busiest bars in town. No trouble,
Sure.
things to do.
Yeah.
And the next day, Alan Jacobs, my good friend Alan Jacobs, was still working as a feed salesman for FS before he came to state. We went down to Evansville, met with the realtor at the bank that he owned. He called Bob Huffman at home. That was on a Monday or a Sunday. That Monday, Bob calls me and says, Jeff, I need this and this and this. That Wednesday, the loan committee met. That was February 22nd of 85. March 1st, I went into business.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
imagine doing that today.
That fast?
There's no such
way.
thing as a
No.
loan committee with
No.
actual people.
Yeah, that meet
I
and
mean,
whatnot.
know you, yeah.
I mean,
No.
my dad had to
That's
guarantee $20,000 of this note.
Yeah.
That's all. And I
Wow.
had to put my house up for collateral.
Sure.
Other than that was it.
And here you are.
And it was my word that I was going to work hard.
Yeah.
There was no business plan to be wrote.
Right.
Now you have to have a business
You got to do
plan.
the whole business plan
and-
stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
somebody,
Which is fake anyway. It's all
somebody
made
still,
up numbers.
Yeah, somebody still has to explain to me what a business plan is.
I
I
mean,
still don't understand.
I just said it. It's a
Well,
fake, made up a bunch of numbers
so-
that you hope to make that year, but you have no idea. How could
No.
you?
It was in a movie once. It said a plan is a list of things that don't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's about right.
Very close to it.
But in your case, you already, whether you knew it or not, you had the experience of working at these various establishments. You had your clientele that was coming to see you Saturday nights, your friends, because you were in that age group anyway.
Well, you had an established business, and those people weren't going anywhere else.
Right? Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, you still had, okay, somebody asked me the other day, well, you got so many more businesses downtown today. No, there's the same amount of pouring establishments now as there was then. That they've just changed locations
Okay. Sure.
Gotcha.
and business models.
Sure.
You got Chris, who's a brewery, who's a bar, who's a brewery.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes his own beer, and he sells his own beer, but he's got more craft. He's got more liquor up there.
Yeah,
than
right.
than I did.
Yeah.
And well, you got I can't say their names on the radio. On the corner, who's got a whole different concept
Yep.
of how things
Yeah.
ought to be.
Sure.
And where Randy's at, that's been there as a bar for
That's been a bar for forever, right?
forever.
I mean,
And before
yeah.
Randy it was George Heisey for 45 years. Before that, it was Bickle Hops, and Bickle Hops was a
Wow.
pool hall. And he in the basement. If you go down to Randy's today, the how they, they used to take their sticks and
Yeah. Chalk the
all
ceiling.
that
yeah.
stuff
all still
is
there?
still up there.
That's cool. Pickle Hops. That's a great name.
Yeah,
That's-
well, it was,
that's good old
I
German
forget
name.
his name, and
Yeah.
where I was at, well, that was a brewery. I mean,
Yeah.
and where Paul deals at, that was a place, but next door was a bar. Where Harrisonville Telephone Company was a bar.
There's a bar there.
You
Wow.
had Breezy Hill on the out.
Yep, yep.
At
Outside?
that time,
Yeah.
it was on out in the street. You had the Beehive. So if you take all the liquor licenses, and well, you still had the two places out of the West End.
Yeah.
Those
Okay.
places were there.
Yep.
There was actually a third one, and I don't remember it, but there was. It's tore down. There was another tavern in between them back in
Really?
the day. Yeah.
But the thing is, you weren't just some guy off the street that went in and said, hey, give me some money. I got this crazy idea. I want to open a bar. You were known in the area, and you've had this experience. You had a house to put up, and you took that risk, and you made it happen. So that's cool.
Yeah, but I didn't know the first thing about pricing a beer, what
That's-
it cost.
That's
You know.
not uncommon for new business owners.
Some
But
of the stuff you got to figure out on the fly, right? I mean,
for sure. But interestingly,
that's all I've been doing.
your political background, even at that point, was beneficial in understanding people. And your business is nothing but people.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I'm going to go home now. Thank you.
See you, Kevin. We'll finish up here.
Kelly has supper waiting.
For the preferred outsider.
Now I should know this, but was it a restaurant too when you
No.
bought it? Okay, so
They served hamburgers during the day, 11 to 2, mostly courthouse business, phone company business, and then it was Tombstone Pizzas.
because that's a whole other story running
Right.
a restaurant versus just a
And
bar.
let's see, when I bought it, well, they did fish on Friday night. Fish on
Gotcha.
Friday.
Yep.
So, okay, we did fish on Friday. We did the same thing.
Yeah,
for
sure.
several years, And then we started a steak night. Arnie Eckert, who's now our Miller salesman, he ran a grocery store in Hecker. And I used to buy my steaks from him. It was, let's just say we bought 20 strip steaks, 28 ounces, 20 12 ounces, 20 8-ounce ribeyes, 20 12-ounce ribeyes, and some sirloins. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but sirloin was after the first two. Some people, well, you should have some sirloin. Ellen Dietz was the one who always asked for sirloins. Why do I remember that? Because I liked Ellen.
Yeah.
So you tried to. So we did that once a month. My brother would help me, but both my brothers would help me in the kitchen. And we would cook steaks. We would be drinking beer while we're cooking.
Yeah.
It was a fun thing to do.
Sure.
And we made a little bit of money, and people stayed, and that morphed into. Well, then the law changed from 1.5 to 1.0. So now you added an extra. You started staying open on Saturday night more. And then you went from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And that morphed into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I mean, 7 days a week.
And all of a sudden,
Yeah,
you're
and then,
you're on.
and then you're adding this and you're adding that.
Yeah.
And then we had the option to started making ribs on a charcoal smoker. Denise and I got married in 91, and I bought this charcoal, was a wood-fired, they call them stick burners today. And started making brisket and pork butts overnight, and you have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and check it. And then
So good.
a place opened up in Columbia where Top Shooters is at now. It was called Pig and a Poke. They had a place in Belleville.
Really?
It was 91. They Rouse's had went out of business,
Okay.
and that corner where Top Shooters is at, that the guy that owned it leased it out to these guys from Belleville. They opened up a satellite, and they bought a smoker from Southern Pride, which was based in Marion, Illinois at the time. They're now based out of Tennessee.
Okay.
They're a big operation.
Big operation.
Yeah.
They're worldwide. Anyway, they had bought a smoker. They were 255 had went through. People were going up and down Old Route 3, and it just was it didn't work for him. So I bought the smoker from him, put it in the back. Didn't have to get up no more at 2 o'clock in the morning because it was pretty much self-sufficient once you got it going.
Yeah.
And that's how that started. And one thing, you went from pork butts to brisket to ribs, and that's how that.
And this is just you figuring out how to smoke meat, and because people go there to get your barbecue. You don't just become good at smoking barbecue, right? Was this you or somebody else? Did you hire an expert?
No.
No.
Well, so the cool thing is, you mentioned my lovely wife Kelly, and her family
And she
has.
still is.
I know she is.
She was a Blandford from home.
That's it. So they would have a
Tony and Fritz.
Yep, just great people. I won the in-law lotto when I married to that family for sure. But they have a party on the farm, and Kelly got a smoker. And who did she call for advice on how to prepare the meat? She called JV. JV hooked us up. It was great. Appreciate that.
Well, I'll give anybody advice now, whether they, or my opinion now, whether they want to listen to it or not. I don't know. Chris asked often. I would tell him what
Yep.
I knew.
Absolutely.
I mean, up and down the line, when Tony and Anthony, or when the guys next door started, it was in here. My son-in-law was having a
Yeah.
whatever
that's
the
right.
hell it
That
was,
all,
and I talked to them guys at Link that night.
Yep.
I mean, I don't mind sharing what I've learned, whether they want to use it or not. That's their deal.
And I think that's one of the things that I've learned that I'll never forget about you and the way you operate is just your willingness to help and you're not afraid to get in there and show people how you do what you do or give tips and tricks and all that. It's more of I want to also see you succeed as well as me, and let's do this together.
For
and,
sure. Yeah.
And I mean, that's what's in. It's kind of for the greater good, of Waterloo, and for that's so. Yeah, I mean, we talked on the phone fairly regularly for quite a while. I would say, just
yes, we did. I mean, just
fairly regularly.
just this week in Columbia, the Columbia City Council wants to raise the liquor licenses in Columbia from $600 to $1,500 a year.
Oh boy!
And
Yikes.
and none of those folks up there can agree to go to City Council and oppose that. Where in
Wow.
Waterloo, they just recently wanted to raise a fee for the gaming machines
okay.
from $25 to $500 a year. We went, and when you stand there as a group, they went, what are you guys doing here?
Right.
Well, we're here because, naturally they look at me and we stand with you guys have made $200,000 in 6 months off of taxes, off of these machines,
Sure.
and you
And
want
now
to
you
raise
wanna-
the license?
Yeah. You want more?
I mean, are you greedy? What are you using the money for?
Yeah. Right. Right.
This
Yeah.
is stupid. And they kept it the same.
Nice.
Well, and again, it speaks to your willingness to get involved in the public sphere. And I know, just as being a patron and being at the Optimist meetings that were at your place, and you and I would hang out afterwards. There were nights when,
The pendulum swing.
yes, when JV would either go home or JV would be sitting there, and I would come up and he would say, "Ostie, we're going to drink now." And we'd sit down and
It
we
is
would
now time to.
we would have a few drinks.
Little as
And-
JV, no, we were going to do that anyway, but
Yeah, they made it official.
yes.
Franco was on the other side, and the pendulum swang.
But what I always thought was interesting is your knowledge of the ordinances and the liquor laws
Yeah.
and the ins and outs of all that stuff, and your willingness to share with Chris.
Super helpful, yeah.
And a lot of people run businesses and don't even care. They just take the paperwork that's handed to them and try to get through the day, as
Right.
opposed to being proactive and trying to learn as much as they can.
Well, thank you for that, but that's I served as president for the Illinois Licensed Beverage Association for almost 8 years. I was involved for 30 years
Wow.
See,
in different things. I mean, I'm trying to gather my words here. It's just not. Hillary Clinton had it right. It takes a village, and if you don't want to get involved and stay involved in whether you like what somebody else is doing down the street or not, it affects everybody.
for sure.
Yep.
When a law goes in effect in Chicago, eventually, 10 years later, it comes down to the rest of the world below I-80. Rockford's considered downstate. Honestly, when you go to Springfield and you say you're from Waterloo, Illinois,
You're from a different state. Yeah.
You might as well be, yeah.
Oh, you're from Southern Illinois, and we consider Carbondale Southern Illinois.
Right. Exactly.
I lived up there. I grew up in the Chicago area. I used to think Tinley Park was Southern Illinois,
Exactly.
south side of Chicago.
Rockford, as far as legislation is considered, is Southern Illinois.
Wow.
Even though they're 5 miles from the Wisconsin border.
Yeah, they just think differently.
It's just a whole different
It's
mindset.
just not
so
Cook
you
County,
have to
you know?
Yeah.
you have to get all these people involved to try to either do good for you or to make sure that something ain't bad happening to you.
Sure.
And that's what the Illinois Licensed Beverage Association was about. And you have to come to a compromise, whether it's letting a craft brewery distribute
Yeah.
their own stuff or not distribute their own stuff, the 3-tier system. It all comes into play.
Yep.
And craft distillers, now they want to, if you only do so many. Is it going to happen? Eventually it will happen, but it's going to have to be good for all 3 tiers, and it's going to have to be good for everybody.
So tell me about the 3 tiers.
Manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer.
Gotcha. If it works for everybody, it's a win.
It works for everybody, and you don't have in Mexico they don't have a 3, and there's alcohol poisoning where I'm trying to come up with the right word here, Chris.
Well, there's no check and balance on it.
There's no check and balances. They water it down. They do different things
Yeah.
to it. People get sick.
Yep, they're adding things to fake flavors or whatever,
Right.
and
And
make things palatable. And
No
Yeah.
standards, yeah. Well, and even on simple stuff, one night you and I were talking, and I was sitting there looking at the different memorabilia, if you will, on the walls of your establishment, and I saw this vintage beer sign, and you told me the story about how you really can't have, even if it's an old type of advertisement, if you're not selling that product currently, you're not supposed to have it on the wall.
Or you have to list it as antique.
okay,
Yeah, and you
I just
believe
and show the
in-
receipt that you purchased it and all that stuff, right?
Right, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, I
And-
know, right.
and
Or you can
cleaning-
be fined if they want. I mean,
Well, it depends on your liquor inspector. Some of them
Exactly.
guys can be really assholes.
that is the opinion of Jeff Vogt and not Stubborn German Brewing Company.
But maybe you agree.
Yeah, he agrees, but he won't say it.
That's called being a politician, Jeff. You ever hear one?
I found, and I knew I had it, a Griesedieck Brothers sign.
Yeah.
Griesedieck Brothers is back into business.
Yeah.
One of the grandsons found it.
Bob, yep.
Bob, you know, there's a story, and I'll tell that in just a second. but I found a Griesedieck Brothers sign downstairs.
Cool.
A vintage Griesedieck Brothers sign. So I took that home, and it's in my garage, and I'm going to probably send it to them guys.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
That's
Yeah.
I mean, what do I want? With
Sure.
it for?
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah.
But so Paul Huffmeister and Denny Huffman, they ran Breezy Hill for 100 years. Paul tells a story. There was two gentlemen in town at the time who worked odd ends jobs for people. By today's standards, they would be human support people.
Sure.
All right, but they worked.
Yep.
They come in. They would mow your grass. They would.
Okay.
And I can remember their names, but I won't say it. And Paul Huffmeister told the story as true. The Griesedieck Brothers salesman was there, and he says, "Fellas, we got a new beer from Griesedieck. Would you try one?" One guy says, "I'll have a Griesedieck," and the other one says, "Well, I'll suck a Griesedieck too."
And that's the T-shirt that never happened.
Oh, wow.
I know.
What do you think, Joel?
Yeah, looking for the cough
That was
button.
clean.
That might be the title of this podcast.
That's gonna be. Oh boy.
If it was dirty, it was only in your mind, pal. Oh wow.
Making the customers
But anyway,
blush.
I think it's kind of interesting that the grandson's trying to bring that brand back.
Yeah.
That's totally cool.
I think it would
It
be
is
kind of
awesome.
fun if Falstaff would try to make a comeback, because that was the big beer
Sure.
60 years ago when I
Well,
was
you
a
know,
kid.
Walt Disney had it figured out, and we all want that connection with our childhood, what's familiar, and that's why nostalgia is so powerful. And you look at all the cans, and RC with their cola beverage, the RC can looks like it did in the 80s.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the old style can, my dad used to drink. With the little drawing on
It's
the
the
side,
same one,
it's
yeah.
the same can now. It went through an evolution, but now, oh wow,
It's
and so
back.
yeah, it's very
Yeah.
powerful.
That's cool.
So, in all those years, it's interesting to me that even though people knew what they were going to get when they came to your establishment, they knew they could get good food, they knew they have a place at the bar, they knew what drinks were going to happen. You didn't have to come up with some new novelty and repaint the place every 6 months, and now we got a jungle gym or whatever, because I just think it was a solid place. It's just and your way of dealing with people was one that worked. I mean, it was a cool deal. We appreciate it.
I kind of think that if you do the same, if you do something and you do it well, and you don't try to reinvent, but you do it consistently, people appreciate that.
They do. And I think more so today because things change so fast.
It's not always fun to walk into your local watering hole and have everything changed, like you said, every 6 months, or we're going to move the bar over there today, and
or
we're
the
going
quality falls off.
Exactly, yeah. Or we got all these brand new people that we have and they don't know how to make a drink anymore, and yeah.
Well, sometimes you have to teach people. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
anytime you make a menu change, and you got a whole different deal here, but
Right.
let's just take next door. They're going to add this. It takes 6 months before people adhere to that. You make an hour change, your hour change.
Sure.
It takes 6 months for people to
figure that out.
figure not even figure it out, but to accept it.
Sure.
6 months, really.
To quit
6
being
months.
mad about it. Yeah.
I believe it.
A new place opens up. Let's just say a new joint opens up. Let's just say that the old Bobex opens back up.
Okay.
It's going to take 3 to 5 months for people to go back to where there are. Everybody's going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new place, no different than what we're at. It's going to take 3 to 5 months for people will go. They'll give them a second and third chance.
Yep.
And everybody goes back to where they're familiar.
Mm-hmm.
What is home? I just had an 88-year-old man stop this past week who used to 10 bar back at the place I owned in the 50s,
Wow.
who has cancer.
Oh.
And he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. What do you mean you don't know what you're going to do, Bill? He says, well, I'm not drinking anymore, and I could come in there and have a glass of water, and nobody looked at me like I was an idiot because I wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows you're an idiot. And if you go in and the right people are there and you're drinking water, who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
They're idiots too anyway.
Yeah.
That's not just you.
Look at, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. It was an hour, and it was a great conversation.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was. He told me his history that he knew, that he remembered.
That's cool.
Of everything that went on. Well, thank you for the drink, whoever just brought it.
And just for clarification, I know I'm an idiot, so don't worry about that.
We know too.
Yeah,
Kenneth.
yeah. No,
it's
everybody
fine.
knows
Yeah,
that.
We know that.
Now, I got to ask, because it's a personal favorite of mine, and I know several others that love it, who came up with the Buffalo Rangoon appetizer?
What? I thought you were going to talk about potato salad.
No.
I swore you
company-
were talking about potato. Well, you can talk about this first, but potato salad's
all
next.
right.
Yeah, and then I got one.
A company called Golden Phoenix,
Golden Phoenix. Okay.
and they're out of St. Louis.
I've never seen it anywhere but at your venue.
Well,
Gotta get out more often.
honestly, I haven't either. I had a salesman by the name of Steve Jones who currently lives in Waterloo. It was Middendorf Sales, and he says, Jeff, we got this new stuff. It's made over here on Broadway. I think it would be a good sell. And even through all these price increases, it only went up like 3 cents a portion.
Wow.
Nice.
A piece.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
It's good stuff.
It's just
It is
different.
good.
Yeah, it is different.
It is
yeah.
good, but what's better is JV's world famous potato salad.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Is there a story behind the potato salad?
I mean, other
It was
than
my
I've
mom's recipe.
probably
Oh, wow.
ate 6 gallons of it in my lifetime. Other than that,
Just this month. Yeah,
that was your
your
mom's,
mom's recipe.
Yeah.
Wow.
that's cool.
And there's it's how the potatoes are sliced and how the potatoes are baked. Oops, I just
Uh-oh.
what?
Hey.
Secrets out.
Yeah. But other than that, just use your favorite recipe.
Good
He'll
luck.
have the recipe, and I got a slicer for each one of my boys.
Nice.
Nice. Keep it going.
It lives on.
There was only 3 slicers that I know of that we used. My mom had 2, and her friend Jackie had 1. And when Jackie died, somehow Mom ended up with that slicer. So
They're all 3 with the Vogts, huh?
they're all 3 with me, and Jonathan and Joel, my boys. They said we want that recipe, even though
Nice.
they know it because they've had to make it because they all work there,
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
And so they're-
Awesome stuff.
They're ending up with a slicer.
Okay.
All right. So
I know who to go to.
while we're on the food experience of JV's, now you could go in and be a regular patron and sit down at a table and look at the menu and order whatever you want. Or if you're in one of the service organizations that had their meetings there,
Yes.
we would walk in, my example being the Optimist Club, not knowing what's going to happen, and then just something hits the table that was always dynamite, but not often on the menu.
It's
So
a beautiful thing to be JV's guinea pig.
for sure. Well, guinea pig, but I mean, so that was your chance, I imagine, to exercise some creativity and do something a little bit different. Who knows? Maybe do a little bit of research for the menu if everybody really liked something. But it was always something different and special.
Okay, so Rotary was actually my guinea pig.
If it passed them, then it went to
Then
us.
we got
Well,
it.
That's how I like to think of it.
It was. I would tweak it then for the Optimist
Oh, okay.
Club.
You guys got
If
the
that- if
refined
that-
version.
I like
Hey,
it. Okay.
Well,
good,
yeah. I mean, it was just. I mean,
We tip better than rotary.
Well,
guns.
obviously.
no,
Probably not.
no,
Probably not.
You guys,
He says, well,
at the end of the career, Optimus drank more. 30 years ago,
I'll accept
you
that.
guys couldn't have held a goddamn candle. When Doc Yost and Alloy Slore and them guys, I mean, they were 3 and 4 Manhattans before the meeting and 2 after.
Yeah,
You know,
there you go,
and
yeah.
playing,
Nice.
and
Yep.
you guys were come in early, stay late, and if Franco was in the mood,
If the pendulum swang for Franco.
and if Shelby was in the mood, everybody was in the mood because
for
he
sure,
would
yeah.
belittle you,
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
Optimist Club does go as Shelby goes.
pretty much.
Well, you and I have closed that bar many times at the end of Optimus
Yes,
Clubs.
we have.
Of course, discussing official club business.
Well, why else would we be
course.
there?
That's right. Well, hang out with him.
Well, that's two.
I do
True,
remember
true.
a very unique dessert that you had served one
Yes.
night, and it was Rice Krispie treats with bacon.
Compliments
Wow.
of Jason Hook.
Oh my
Really?
God, was that good? And that was Hook's deal
Hook
idea.
Hoochie Mama said, Jeff, I found this recipe, and but the difference was I smoked the bacon.
There you go.
Oh, gotcha.
It
And
was wonderful.
I candied the bacon and kind of rough chopped it in the food processor, and we used Cocoa Crispy Puffs
Nice.
and some maple syrup. in
Maple
it.
syrup was the key there. Yeah.
I thought you were going to the bread pudding with the Stumpy's pecan pie on top. That
Yeah,
was
that's another
killer.
good one. Yeah, with a little bit of ice cream.
Yep.
Sometimes too.
Oh, I'm gonna miss that.
Hook, the guy that won't eat green beans, but
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't have green beans if he's showing up.
He and Andrew Glessner, nothing green.
Nothing green.
Nothing green.
ever.
Nothing green. No salad, no nothing. It's like, you,
Well,
how do you go to the bathroom? How are you regular?
It's once every 3 months, but it's a good deal when it happens. Speaking of salad,
Beer will
Yeah,
make
beer
you
helps.
loose.
Yeah.
there was also, I believe, a slightly different salad for the group as opposed to what was on the menu.
Well, yeah, because we would make our own dressings.
Yeah, and
we
that
would,
was
we would
awesome.
make
Yeah.
a different. I mean, I wouldn't use. I hate ranch. I absolutely hate ranch dressing. Everybody, I'm not too sure that people that ordered extra ranch didn't rub it over their bosoms or some goddamn thing. It just drives me insane. Ranch is not meant to be poured on your pizza, for Christ's sakes.
Truer words never spoken, by the way.
What do you take a time out?
That's fantastic.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not a huge ranch fan myself.
I'm not going to
I
admit
hate
that I
it.
am at this point.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. You're right.
I mean, we're gonna. I need ranch for my pizza. No, you don't.
Jeff, actually, your ranch is delicious.
It's the best ranch ever.
You sound like me with blueberry wheat.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or anything pumpkin spice.
Yes.
Oh no! Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like the
We
word
can agree.
bittersweet. Denise and I have decided that the last 3 weeks, bittersweet is a word that we'd never want to hear again.
It's over.
Not coming.
It's
Yeah.
bittersweet. What
It's
do you mean
over.
we didn't eat this?
How can it be bitter or sweet? Yeah.
It's over. Well, one thing that we had talked about before is how, depending on the night and depending on the time of day and depending on the season, how the crowd changed. But your bar was always appealing to all the different crowds, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Okay, let's just go back to 1985.
Here I am.
I inherited a group of gentlemen who were in their mid-70s to 80s. Soxy Door. I mean, these guys are all dead. They all had nicknames. There was 9 of them. Every morning at 10 o'clock, waited for the bar to open.
10 a.m.
They had been up to Heisey's, which is now Randy's.
Okay.
Had
Breakfast.
Had an eye opener. and they
Is that what we
came
call
down
that?
and they sat in the same position
Okay.
no matter what. And if somebody was not there, that seat
Stayed open?
Stayed open.
Open.
Nice.
And they would shake the box back when it was legal, and they would shake, not ship captain and crew, but they would shake.
The
They
whatever.
would shake.
Yeah.
They would shake the dice, and the loser had to buy the drink. but it was a 50-cent limit. So if you were drinking a $2 drink, you had to pay the extra $1.50. So a Manhattan was maybe
Sure.
$2 at that time.
Gotcha.
And I always remember one morning, a guy by the name of Bill Railing. Great guy. He owned a lot of land down in Valmar. He drank port wine.
Yeah.
And he said, "Say, fellas," in that little German brogue, "if I die tomorrow, would you come and pour some port wine over my tombstone?" And Mr. Whip says, "Is it okay if we drink it first?" And he says, "Oh, yeah, process it through your kidneys first. It'd be shame to waste some good port wine."
That's great.
You know,
Filtered.
I mean, I could tell you another story that would get bleeped by this guy. But Alvin Wortman had bought a brand new Ford Bronco from Barney Oldfield. That was predecessor to Sunset.
Yeah.
Okay. It was brown, two-tone brown. And he was parked in front of the chiropractor, in front of Rayot, not Tanous, Rayot.
Okay.
And where Price Printing was at, that kid there had bought a brand new Isuzu. And the Isuzu was the same color, but the windows were higher on the back.
Okay.
Alvin says, "I got to go. The wife's got a doctor's appointment. See you guys tomorrow." And he walks across the street to where he sees this brand new car that was the same, but he's parked down a half a block away.
It's the wrong car.
And they all turn to watch him.
Not help,
They say-
but watch.
"You think Alvin will figure it out?" And he takes his key out, and they all watch him. and he comes back in. I need the phone book. That Barney Oldfield's going to get. He's going to get some. He's going to get this. And he's got the phone out. He's got the phone off the hook. And Soxy says, "Alvin, you think if you tried that key in the car down in front of the chiropractor, it might work?"
In your car?
He hangs the phone up. He gets to the door. He turns around. You can bleep it if you want to. He says, "Fuck me, all you guys."
All you guys.
And out the door he goes. and Mr. Red says, "You think he'll be back?" He goes, "Oh, hell yeah, he lost 2. And the next day he was back, and they were all buddies and just laughing about the whole thing. I mean, you can't make this shit up now, I'm telling you.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is great.
But, things change. People used to stop before cell phones. They would stop it on their way home from work. They would have a beer. They would have a drink. And they would talk about things they did at work that day.
That's what we text about now or
Well,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to come uptown. Bob Crump would stop 5:30, have a martini, and at 9 o'clock that night he would come back up with Earl and Pearl Wrights and Bob and Willa Mae Prongy, and for an hour the guys would sit at the bar, the women would sit over in the corner, and they would talk.
You were the neighborhood living room.
Well, they would talk about what they were going to do this weekend,
For
and
sure,
they would
yeah.
go to
Socialize.
they would socialize together, and then they would go out to a clubhouse that we all belonged to, and they would barbecue, and they would have family functions together, and it wasn't over the internet or a text.
Didn't
Yeah.
need to be, yeah.
Well, and the cool thing is that people were so comfortable doing that there. That speaks miles for the atmosphere and the way you and your people treated everybody. And it's
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know how that all goes, but you just ran a place. You hoped to run a place that people were comfortable at.
well, and I guess knowing you probably ran it the way you'd want to be treated.
One night there was a guy. He worked for Lord Brothers. I'm not going to say his name. He was used to working with guys on the river.
Okay.
And hard of hearing because you didn't wear ear puffs. And he's rah rah this and rah rah that, rah rah rah, rah rah rah. And Denise went over to him and says, and she whispered in his ear, and what she whispered is, can you hold it down? There's a lot of families here. And he says, realizes, oh, goddamn, Denise, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was cussing like that. Give everybody a drink. It takes a lot of money to make new friends.
That's a true statement.
Oh, that's great. But, you know, and he's our neighbor now.
So you hear him yelling now all the time anyway?
No, it's just
That's awesome.
I mean, and another one of those guys that I grew up with.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, our fathers worked together as policemen, but he had no clue that he was even cursing like he did. I mean, he was using words that it was like, woo.
Well, so the cool thing is you know, there's zillions of hours of stories that you could provide and entertainment. And I know that because of the timing right now, you're transitioning out of the place and you sold it and there's new things coming in. So I know everybody's asking the same stuff and they're all saying frickin' Bittersweet, but I gotta do it for our listeners. So what's next for JV? What are we looking at?
I really don't know.
Which is fine.
I mean, nothing. I mean, for the next few, I'll find something to do come October. I just don't want to be the boss no more.
Well, and I totally respect that. And you have been working constantly for decades, you know, and don't, you know, there are business owners that don't even show up at their business. Then there's JV who's cooking the food. You know, you have been there, so you are a zillion % entitled to do absolutely nothing if that's what you want to do.
I would have to guess, Kevin, and I'm going to tell you this, since September, our average day, Denise and I's average day at the bar was 15 hours.
Yeah. Oh, I totally believe it. Totally believe it. Yeah.
And there was one Sunday, one kid, and he wasn't a kid no more. He's 21 years old. Just didn't show up. And another kid, 5 minutes before he's supposed to come in, hey, I forgot to tell you, I have a family function today. And his other kid, and he's, you know, they're 15, 16-year-old.
Sure.
And I don't want to belittle all the 15s because they're not all that way.
Sure.
I mean, we had a great kid at the end that worked for us. I mean, I just love the kid, and I hope the new guys keep him on because he told the 19-year-old a couple weeks ago, put your phone away, will you? This man ain't paying us to be on the goddamn phone.
Wow. That's
and
impressive.
It's like, whoa.
I'm going to need the kid's name.
Yeah.
You know him.
And anyway.
But you got, because of the situation, you had to pick up the slack.
And Denise was doing dishes. She's making salads, and I'm frying chicken and making burgers, and we're going like crazy. Avery came back to help us at the end of the night to clean up. I mean, I can't say enough about Avery the last 3-4 years. Yeah. I mean, through the whole pandemic. And,
Avery's been great.
I mean, I hope he finds his paralegal job soon because he said the other day, if I was going to stay in this business, it was either for you or for myself, and neither one of those are feasible at this time.
Yeah.
But, no, we could talk about Avery for a whole nother hour if we wanted to. And then you got our kids. They all work there. If you'll see the picture this week in the Republic Times, everybody that was in that picture worked for me at one point in time. All my brothers and sisters have worked there.
That's so cool.
Either for pay
or to help.
Yeah. Or to help in a pinch. My brother Paul never got a paycheck out of me, but he helped me every steak night.
That's awesome.
Every steak night.
Yeah.
He made the salads. He prepped the plates. But he had that experience from working at the Beehive.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And he did it for beer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother Mark helped. What's that? Oh, my dad. Oh, my God. That's a whole other story. I'm going to tell you a story about Dad tended bar the first 2 years I was open on Sunday morning. He'd go to 7:30 Mass, come up, and he'd sweep and clean. One morning, and all those 9 guys are there.
Yeah.
Plus Bob and Toots Crump and Earl and Pearl Wrights and Bob and Willamette Prongy, and there was other folks that had just left 9 o'clock Mass to come up for an benediction, as they called it. and at the old bar, it had 9 seats and it ran straight.
Yep. Okay.
And there was 4 plants that John Putoff had left up there, and we had 4 beers on tap. We had Bush, Miller Lite, Bud Light, and Budweiser. And Dad would take a glass of beer and he'd pour one in each plant. And the Miller Lite was always the one that grew the fastest. and there was always speculation.
hops brewed.
Well, there was always speculation. Why is that one greener and bigger? You know, and blah blah blah. So one morning there was this Corvette pulls up in front, convertible. These two good-looking gals get out and they sit at what there used to be an elevator in there. And I don't none of you guys remember that, but there used to be an elevator where the booth was at.
Okay.
That's where that's kind of cut out. There was a today they would call it a dumbwaiter, but it was an elevator.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We went up and down, and they sat at a table that was right there. And Dad he gets all kind of bristly, and he takes a towel and he puts it over his arm like he's a big fancy waiter. And he walks over there, and everybody's waiting. Ladies, can I help you? He said, yes, we would like some grasshoppers. Well, what's in that? Green cream and a mint. Well, we got that. Cream and a cocoa. Well, I got that. And ice cream. He takes the towel, throws it over his shoulder, and says, Dairy Queen opens at 11. You want a Bloody Mary? I can do that.
That's right. You line up some shots? I got you.
Yeah, you had me until ice cream.
And they stayed for a couple hours, and everybody took them in, and it was just like they never, it was fun.
That's
Been there the whole
awesome.
And they
time.
were on their way down to Rocher for something. Why do I remember that? I don't know. Because they stayed for 3 hours
Right.
and you
Because
found
it was
out
fun.
the
Yeah,
history.
exactly.
Yeah, they missed whatever was in Rocher. They missed it.
Yeah. We were going to go to Rocher.
Right. Well, too cool.
I mean, I can't. My parents helped me out at the beginning like nobody parents. I mean, your in-laws helped you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
mine did too.
Couldn't have done it without him. Yep.
For sure. Very
Yeah.
fortunate.
You gotta have that support system.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's a
Impossible
much
to do without
tougher
it. Yeah.
road.
Yep.
Well, I and many of their customers tell Chris and Tammy all the time how appreciated they are for the connection that they have to the community, what they give back to the community. It's so much more than just a bar serving beer, and everybody appreciates that. And I think, when I saw the news of you guys retiring and selling the business, I saw nothing but comments about people that worked there or that had a special event there or just a memory or a
connection
any-
for sure.
Yeah,
Really cool to read through. And
so much of that.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
you guys have that same kind of connection in the community. And so kudos to you.
I'm going to tell you guys something now that I don't think I've never flaunted because I've never been the. I don't want credit for that.
sure.
But the Jabot Oktoberfest, I've always sold them the liquor at cost.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
And, I didn't want no recognition for it.
Yeah, just-
Because
yeah.
you don't do that.
Exactly.
As
You don't
long as the right people know.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, I'm,
And everybody enjoys it because they can. And
Denise will attest to this. One night we're in bed. It's Waterloo High School post-prom. It's like 2:00 in the morning. And my cell phone's ringing, and it's Kelly Lurch in tears.
Oh.
Jeff, I've got an extra 50 people showed up, and I don't have enough. I went downstairs, turned on the I said, Kelly, you got to give me 45 minutes. And we were still living upstairs at the time.
Oh,
and
so
I
you just
went
go-
downstairs,
yeah.
and I just emptied out the freezer and just
Wow.
started frying things. And
That's awesome.
And, but that's what you do for community.
And it probably
you don't
went
want
unrecognized.
Kelly knew.
Kelly knew, right.
Kelly knew, and that's all that was necessary.
And
I
she
didn't
appreciated
need
it,
the
yeah.
whole world
Right.
to know.
Right.
That's because that's not what I did. I don't need
That's
my
awesome.
picture in the paper for raising money, begging my customers for money for a picnic.
Right.
right.
Stop, Denise says. Well, it's because it's wrong.
Well, and I'll tell you, last weekend, Kelly and I went to Southern California to do some work, and you will not see. There's nobody you can call at 2 a.m. at any establishment
Right.
and get a hand. It's click. They're not even going to answer. So I mean, the small town and the decades of connections over the years, it's appreciated. It's great.
Well, we recently my father died. We did a a backstopper tribute because he was a policeman and all that stuff. You know, it was really kind of interesting, the different letters we got from different people. Even the day of the visitation, people coming through saying, man, your old man gave me this break.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget it. Because if he wouldn't have gave me a break, I might have ended up in a different place. Or he called my old man and said,
Yeah.
well,
That's
even
it.
the night that he died, I'm out in the room waiting for Kornheims to come and get him. And he comes in and says, yeah, I hit 16, had my motorcycle. And Kornheims, none of you guys, they were at the end of the street
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Across from
City
First
Hall.
National Bank.
Yeah.
And he said, and there was a breezeway between there.
Yep.
And they had a furniture store where Lance West is at.
Okay.
He says, pulled me over. Hey, you're driving a little bit fast, aren't you, Mike? Yeah. I want you to go tell your dad.
No,
And
just give me the ticket.
Well, yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, no, Mr. Vogt, can you give me the ticket? He goes, no, you go tell your dad. And I know he's working because so-and-so just died, and I can see the light on in the embalming room, and I'm gonna stop by in an hour or so.
Oh, God.
Yeah, check on
And
that.
Mike said, we're sitting out in that breezeway, and Dad's sitting there, and your dad and Ralph Straub pull in, and, hey, hi, Dave. Yeah. Don't worry, that motorcycle ain't going nowhere for the next month.
Won't be seeing any of that.
But that was,
I mean, you know, there's a
funny.
lot of people came through and just told a whole lot of stories that
Yeah.
that we either knew or never heard before.
Sure.
It was just kind of, and
Yeah.
that's part of the long time ago connection to Waterloo. You
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
know? I don't even know. That's, I mean,
It's been the same way with us retiring.
yeah, we
The things that people would say to us,
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
they're like, it takes you aback. When
The,
Yeah,
the, the
yeah.
good times they had. And,
Or you didn't even know they had.
right, yeah. Well, being a preferred outsider, it was, you know.
Denise is
Well,
too.
there you go. Yeah. Well, she's more preferred than I am, I'll tell you that much. But, you know, for whatever reason, you learned my name early on and would greet me when I came through the door.
How can I forget that melon?
And the name's not written on the melon. But you always made me feel welcome. And I swear, when I first moved here, I didn't know small town life. I lived in, you know, 2 of the 3 biggest cities in the country, and that's it. And, you know, I don't, do I fit in? Do I know these people? No. And then I'd come in, and after a couple times, and you're like, I know your mother-in-law. And, you know, all of a sudden there's this thing starting to build, and it's like, hey, this place is all right. So that was cool.
Well, Tony was a great gal.
She really was. Absolutely.
I remember
it-
as a little kid. I remember. I don't know why. I mean, she worked at the Western Auto Store.
Yep, that's it.
And kind of like Denise says, real quick, just people have experienced milestones. Have experienced milestones at JVs. I mean, my first legal beer ever was at JV's. My brother's first beer was at JV's. I mean, we all that. I mean, how many people had their first beer at JV's? How many people on their wedding day sat on the bar and took pictures? We did. I mean,
Wow, the JV's first beer club.
and the wedding club. I mean,
Oh, the wedding was a big deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just so many. I mean,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right,
Yeah,
the marriage parlor sign.
Denise says to get your picture in front of the marriage parlor sign. Yeah.
Right. And
Yep.
that marriage parlor sign came my way from Bob Limestall, who was a plumber in town. Again, a World War II veteran, could not swim, but at Pearl Harbor, he was an underwater that cut ships
Really?
apart. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He couldn't
Holy
swim,
cow.
But he couldn't swim, and he hated water.
but he,
All right.
but duty called.
But duty called. And
Holy
he ended
cow.
up, and we always called him captain, but he was as high as an enlisted man as he could get in the
Yeah,
Navy.
yeah.
And he did his time. I was always amazed going to his visitation. He could still fit into his World War II uniform.
Wow.
And it was one of the few open caskets that I ever went to where it was the whole deal.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my dad worked for him.
Wow.
When Dad got off when he was just a patrolman, he would go to work for Bob. But the city of Waterloo had went from they were putting in natural gas.
Okay.
So they had propane. You either had propane back in the 50s and 60s
Okay.
or oil.
Okay. Yeah, the big oil tanks in everybody's
so when
basement. Yeah.
So when the city went to natural gas and people were converting over, my dad would get off work at 7 o'clock in the morning and go to work for Bob, converting furnaces
Nice.
over. And they became
Nice.
well, not only employee friends, but like when Ellen, his daughter Ellen Canova, sent us a little nice note about
Awesome.
Carly, as they called him.
Really?
Yeah, and that's how. Well, I don't know. There's another story there. So
For sure. So I think at this point, it's safe to say that I'm speaking for Jared and Chris and everybody, again, to thank you guys for doing what you did and providing a great place to go. And we're going to extend an invitation. You can come back to this show anytime
Absolutely.
because there's more stories
be
and we want to hear
careful
them.
of what you wish for.
I said that at the beginning.
Yeah, I know, and it paid off.
It
so
did.
I think the community as a whole thanks you for all of that, and it's been a great experience. So thank you.
Maybe some night we could talk about when I was president of the Liquor Association.
There you go.
Honestly, because that was very eye opening.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
And
That'd be
being
a
You
great
got
topic.
stories for days on that. Yeah.
Because when you're president of the association, you're also on the national board, which is even. I mean, if you think things in Illinois are screwed up, you ought to be in Pennsylvania or Rhode Island or Delaware.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, wow.
That makes me-
them Eastern Seaboard states have got some screwed up rules.
Well, that makes me feel good to be a Flatlander then. So thank you. But at this
no,
point,
no. You think about this. Chicago's on the same parallel as Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Cairo's on the same parallel as Raleigh, North Carolina.
That's interesting. Didn't
Yeah.
think about that
Think
that way.
about that.
Yeah.
And that's just how diverse the state is, too.
Oh,
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
But I know that our listeners all around the world, especially Slovenia,
the world.
And
our-
Raleigh,
our
North
Raleigh,
Carolina.
North Carolina, and Boston are curious to know what the German word of the day is. They've been waiting this whole time.
Oh, I had forgot about it.
Bite your tongue, JV.
How dare you?
All right, Chris. You gotta-
Okay,
why don't you
let's-
recant what we all
Yeah, so
threw
the
out there?
German word of the day was Kartoffelsalat.
Yeah, right. That.
And Kevin said it was marching band.
Of course.
Marching band.
Jared said garden salad.
That's-
and Jeff said no.
No.
Which I believe that's 9.
It's the
saying.
long way of saying no.
It actually means potato salad.
Oh, man.
I told you salad was in there.
And what about Gladden Holds a Shizzle to Beza Boot?
We're not saying what that is because you're going to tell me later, and I'm going to ask them tomorrow.
I'm going to get that on a T-shirt no matter what it means.
Yes. Well, before we wrap up,
It's gas to Heim to Beza Boop.
Joel suggested that we should end with the Bill Schmidt toast.
Okay. When I'm dead in my grave, no more booze will I crave. On my tombstone shall be written, I've had my fill and I ain't shitting. So when you bury me deep. Make it simple and make it cheap. So maybe on my tombstone shall be wrote, many a drinks went down my throat. So when you pass where I may lie, piss on me, I'm always dry.
Amen to that.
Roast.
We are recording, so
Oh, even better.
Are we?
I mean,
It's actually happening.
Okay.
Okay.
We've been very excited for this one.
Yeah, we all have. This is cool.
Yeah.
Be careful of what you wish for.
Here it comes. All right.
well,
let's let her rip.
Okay.